The unexpected halt of proceedings sent a clamor around the courtroom. But outside the Bailey, where Londoners knew nothing of the secret trial within, it was a typical still night. Then, at a little past 8 o'clock that evening, Mr. Sholmes and his partner returned to Baker Street. 3rd November, 8:07 p.m., Sholmes' suite. There's roast on the table! We have returned, my dear fellows. Welcome back to Britain, and thank you for your timely help. Think nothing of it. I believe you had an even more wearing day than Mikatoba and I know. You could say that. We were on the brink of defeat in court earlier. So this prosecutor, Asogi, had you on the ropes, did he? And he's your best friend, you say? Well, he's not really the man I knew in Japan anymore. Kazuma's changed. Once again, Kazuma hasn't changed. He just kind of hid most of himself from you, Naruhodo. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I mean, it's incredible. To think that he'd even entertain the idea of acting as the Reaper's assassin. Well, nevertheless, you must introduce me. After all, I've only ever met the young man as a corpse. When all this started, almost a year ago now, Mr. Sholmes still hasn't told us the truth about what really happened back then. About the motivation for what he himself described as a great detective's lie. Now then, I must say, it's really quite a journey all the way to France. Well, it is another country, Mr. Sholmes. So, what news of Judge Jigoku? We took him to Scotland Yard. The investigating detectives there have a lot of questions for the man. Poor Professor Mikatoba. This must be quite a shock for him. Ah yes, I picked this up at the telegram office on our way home. What is it? Surely you haven't forgotten already. I put upon you for the matter only yesterday. You put upon me, Sholmes. I had to fill out your telegram to Japan and foot the bill as well. Oh, you have a reply already. It was so urgent, though, Mr. Sholmes. Such matters can wait until later, for I'm far too hungry for an involved conversation at present.
Well, that's good news, because supper is ready, everyone.
Ah, and what a feast it is! If I were none the wiser, I think the trial were won already. Roast beef, kippers, stew, steak, and kidney pie, Yorkshire pudding.
Tomorrow could be a very long day, so eat up.
In that case, I think I'll seat myself just here. This place appears to be the only one seat with a helping of pheasant as well.
Oh, sorry, Hurley, not there.
Why ever not? Are we in set places this evening?
Yes, and that place is for Susie's daddy.
For me?
That's right. I made especially for you, Professor Miki.
Professor Miki! Mickey! I see. Well, that's terribly kind of you. Professor Miki! Mickey! Oh my god! I didn't know we had Disney corporations in here.
It's a shame, really.
What do you mean?
Well, for a brief moment, I believed it. That Susie and I will have sisters, I mean.
Oh. That's a lot of surprises. Iris, do you mean...
Yes, I know now. I overheard yesterday. I secretly listened into the conversation you had after I tricked you all into thinking I'd left.
Of course. What? Why are you surprised, Sholmes? The misunderstanding arose because of that autopsy report from 10 years ago. But actually, it turned out that neither Dr. Wilson nor Professor Mikatoba are Iris's father. Yes, about that, Iris. You know, I
know. You can't tell me at the moment.
Oh, Iris.
The pheasant is, by the way, An apology. I'm sorry for eavesdropping.
Oh, no, that's quite alright. Then why don't I get an apologetic pheasant? So just who is Iris's father? I suppose that's not something we'll be finding out today. And now Sholmes will sulk at this couch. So then, it is 9, while our largely pheasantless plates are still piping hot. I am hungry again. A fine idea, Sholmes. It all looks absolutely delicious.
Eat as much as you like. There are always seconds.
This could be our last chance to ask questions before tomorrow's trial. About that telegram from Japan, and about Kazuma. I can't let this opportunity slip away. And thus Sholmes is now at the couch sulking. Yep, there he is, sulking away. Oh wow, it's Baker Street at night. I think this is really the only time we're actually here at night. I quite like it, actually. I do quite like the atmosphere for the nighttime. I'm gonna take pictures, don't mind me. Blink. Bum, bum, bum. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? Surely it's abundantly clear that I wasn't brooding over Mikatoba's refusal to share his pheasant with me. Nevertheless, I felt the need to withdraw from the social circle for a while and look on with hungry eyes.
Sorry, Hurley, but I cooked that pheasant especially for Susie's daddy.
Even though I've played the role of father to you for far longer. Mr. Sholmes, could I discuss some things with you? Certainly, my dear fellow. I find myself quite in the mood for a spell of conversation, and he jumped back real fast. No doubt. You're hungry to learn more of my deep love of the game. I can probably contain my curiosity on that one. You needn't look at me in that fashion. In what fashion? It seems that before we discuss the pheasant, we have some rather unpleasant matters to discuss. Oh my god, I still have all this evidence. Mr. Sholmes, would you mind looking at this? This is hardly the time, Mr. Naruto, as I'm sure you will appreciate. Oh, no, of course not. My attention is entirely drawn to one single matter now. The pheasant. Anyone would think you hadn't eaten in weeks. So, what was in the telegram you received back from Japan then? Ah, this? I think by lucky stars it arrived in time. Record found as indicated. Duplicate follows. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. What? Those 4 names. We've come across that exact same list before. They came up in that unforgettable case last spring. What appeared to be a simple case of aggravated murder turned out to be masking monumental intrigue. A plot that involved the sale of British governmental secrets to foreign states. In exposing the means by which those secrets were being leaked, we deciphered a fragment of a message. Naruhodo is definitely the hungrier one. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. But we didn't find the names out until the case was over, and we never did get to the bottom of what they meant. All we knew was that the information had been sent by somebody in the British government to somebody in Japan. You know, looking at that list again, 3 of the people on that list are dead. What a red herring. So why are the names coming up again now?
Yes, where did the sender of your telegram discover them, Mr. Sholmes?
I have here the message I had wired yesterday. Allow me to read it to you. And enter Judge Jikoku's office undetected and investigate telegram records. Expect to find communication from Britain dated 1 year ago. List of 4 names. Need by tomorrow. Naruhodo. Why did you sign it with Naruhodo? I sent it to the detective I know who specializes in clandestine missions of this nature.
You asked Inspector Hosonaga to undertake such an onerous task for you.
And in my name? I wonder what guise he opted for this time. My dear fellows, it was a matter of great urgency, you understand. Anyway, the list of names was found in Sessho's office, as Holmes predicted. Thanks, Hosonaga! So you mean that mysterious collection of names that was sent from Britain to Japan was...
It was sent to Judge Jikoku. He was the intended recipient.
I don't believe it.
But that doesn't answer the question of what the list of names actually signifies.
I did formulate a hypothesis about that. But without a shred of evidence, I couldn't possibly have shared it. Mr. Sholmes looks deadly serious for once. Telegram from Japan. A telegram from Inspector Hosonaga to Japan with details of the telegram he managed to locate by stealing into Judge Jikoku's office. Oh, we got the other stuff too. You know, oh wow, I can actually see the cursive handwriting just a bit in the evidence itself. We got this stuff. Okay, cool. No, we're not looking at the sword yet. There's a special opportunity for that, and I want to wait until that time. Like, yes, I can check it now and get everything, but I'm going to wait until, you know, the perfect moment. That tragedy we had to go through on the SS Brea. It was all for nothing. Kazuma wasn't dead at all. You had to make Naruhodo and Susato go through so much trauma, especially Naruhodo, Sholmes. We were completely taken in by the lie you told us. Your great detective's lie. I took no pleasure in deceiving you. However, at the time, all that concerned me was preventing the young man's study tour from taking place, whatever the costs. What? I capitalized on the events that transpired to see that he was sent back to Japan.
His remains, you mean?
Precisely, Mrs. Sato. And then, I made sure that somebody else was sent to Britain instead.
Oh my! You mean...
The arrangement between our two countries was already in place. 1 university student lawyer and 1 judicial assistant to be accompanied on a study tour. In other words, by arranging for someone else to fill the place originally intended for Mr. Sogi, I would successfully prevent the man from arriving on our shores for several years at least. Wait, do you mean to say that it was all in aid of stopping Kazuma coming to Britain? That's why you... Think back, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there not somebody who quite casually urged you to continue on the voyage to England? Casually, he says. The terms of the study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. And in the light of Mr. Sogi's unfortunate death, I am afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is 1 lawyer and the study tour can continue, surely.
But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer.
The voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. So, you manipulated me. I often remarked on the extraordinary lengths to which friendship will drive a man. I was quite sure that you would rise to the challenge for your late friend. I don't believe it. Punch him! No, just punch him. I know we're all friends at the end of the day, but Sherlock does deserve at least a punch.
But if it was all contrived, I mean, what happened was treated by the authorities as murder. A woman was mistakenly arrested as the perpetrator. What do you suppose became of her? Naturally, I didn't allow the misapprehension to have any serious repercussions. I subsequently explained everything and assisted the unfortunate soul to finding the foreign refuge she sought. I seem to remember Mrs. Sato and I had some rather strong words for her. Well, she was certainly not devoid of all guilt. She deserved every word, I'm sure. I wonder if she made it to America then. I'm afraid I simply cannot comprehend it. Why would you go to such lengths, Mr. Sholmes? Why were you so determined to stop Kazuma-sama from reaching Britain?
The truth is, 12 months ago... Oh, you know, they're speaking in English, and I just noticed that Susato's been addressing Kazuma as Kazuma-sama.
There was already a very tangible omen of the impending tragedy, you see.
Oh.
An omen that, at this very moment in time, is close at hand.
An omen of all these tragic events that already existed a year ago is close at hand? We need to find out exactly what Mr. Sholmes knows. What, do I present the telegram? There was no room for doubt when your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You were very clear that it was Judge Jigoku's office that should be searched, so... You obviously knew. That's where the list of names would be found.
K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson.
But we only learned of those 4 names just over 6 months ago now. And only because they appeared as part of a top-secret government communications that were leaked.
That's true, yes. But at the time, you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan. Around 6 months before that, approximately this time last year, in fact, when you were both still in Japan.
It really would be hypocrisy on my part to reprove others for intercepting state secrets. Because after all, I'm perpetually eavesdropping on communications between the British and Japanese governments. You're perpetually doing what? How? Never mind the details, but you should know. No secret is safe from Herlock Sholmes when he has designs on knowing it.
Oh my, Mr. Sholmes! What a fabulous line!
Now, 1 month after that list of 4 names was wired to the recipient Jigoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered. As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. As it turned out, I was partly correct and partly mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow.
Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all you know. Tell us about those 4 names and the tragedy to which they're all somehow connected.
Let's go! As I said, when I learned of Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names, because you see, there was someone else on the list who I believe to be recently deceased. What? Who? A. Shin, as it was transcribed in Japanese script. In actual fact, Miss Asa Shin. That was a familiar name to me. She was a professional killer, well known among London's unsavory classes. Oh, I see. But she had completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed. And accordingly, I became fearful for the lives of the remaining 2 persons on the list.
K. Asogi and T. Gregson.
Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself. But I determined it would be safest if young Asogi was to stay away from Britain. Ah, so that's why you went to such length to prevent his study tour from going ahead. Exactly.
So, you already knew who Kazuma-sama was, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh yes, Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondence for years. I recounted many tales about Osogi to him in my letters, and the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. Oh no!
So, Dr. Wilson is dead then?
Well, at least at this point she didn't know that she knows now that he's not her father.
I didn't know.
Oh, Iris.
I know he wasn't my daddy, but still, that's very sad. I'm so sorry, Iris. We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you. No. No.
But what you just told us, Mr. Sholmes, doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis.
A big hole, Mr. Naruhodo.
Ah, yes. You mean about Asashin, I presumed.
Oh, of course.
Exactly. She wasn't killed, was she? She was in Japan posing as a visiting student under the name of Giselle Brett. I'm glad you're keeping up, my dear fellow, but I only became aware of that fact 2 days ago, in the foyer of the Great Waterloo Hotel. And upon hearing that startling revelation, the hypothesis that I had formed surrounding those 4 names was completely turned topsy. What? Topsy? Topsy hypothesis. What do you mean when you say your hypothesis was turned topsy, Mr. Sholmes? I believe all 4 names on the list to be the names of victims. However, I was mistaken. Very much so. Assassin was a killer. So this telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it? Indeed, and it would seem that Miss Shin was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson, her visiting student status being merely a front.
Which would, of course, explain why no motive could be determined for her actions.
So the real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asa Shin is because he was the target of an assassination. And forearmed with that knowledge, fresh considerations of this telegram puts the list in a very different perspective. I don't like where it's going. What do you mean? Well, does it not strike you? There is another among the 4, who subsequently became a visiting student. Wait, you mean... But of course, a name you know only too well. You mean... Kazuma! In caps! Oh! He did say in court earlier today. Yes, on 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission. The mission was the assassination of the Mark. Young Mr. Sogi accepted that mission a year ago now.
Surely not.
In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say, detailing an assassin exchange. An assassin exchange? How could Kazuma possibly have got involved in something like that? Seriously! Why, Kazuma? Why? You were well overqualified to go to Great Britain, to be an exchange student. Why? I don't understand the logic of this. Why was he also... It had to have been forced upon him. Like, it literally had to be forced upon him, or else there was no way he would agree to this. Let's assume that we have 2 parties, each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual. Those 2 parties then make a contract to swap their respective assassination targets. That would be an assassin exchange.
So, to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student in Japan, where she kills her target. And then, the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain in order to eliminate his target. It certainly does sound like an exchange.
But what on earth is the point? Don't forget, Naruhodo, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction, thanks to diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction. Oh, yes. Such jurisdiction should be null and void under the terms of the new treaty between our two countries. So the fact that it was brought into play suggests intervention at the very highest levels. The highest levels? These murders were two sides of the same coin, linked not by a common motive, but by a contractual agreement. As such, they appear utterly unrelated. Yet in truth, the assassins were complicit in one similar devilish scheme. That disassociation and the safeguard of diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motivation behind this plot. But wait a minute, Sholmes. If this telegram really is describing the exchange of assassins as you're suggesting, it would mean that the Japanese killer's target was never Seshiro Jigoku at all. It would mean Asogi's target was actually Inspector Gregson.
What? Kazuma was here for Gregson?
So Judge Jigoku wasn't actually the mark.
Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
What the hell? I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe.
Mr. Sholmes.
I told him of my fears and implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position. Obviously, with the young pickpocket in tow. Yes, Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson did mention that to us at the Great Exhibition. That he'd be transferring to Paris police and taking Gina with him. But without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems. And sadly, it turned out to be his very last. This is too much to take in.
All right, everyone, that's quite enough of all that serious talk for one day. Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, look at the time.
Ah, quite right, Iris. We must conclude our preparations for tomorrow. What preparations? Well, I think I shall make my way back to my hotel room now. Aw, just stay with Sholmes in his room. Not a big deal, right? Right? Uh-huh. This has certainly been a night to remember.
It is a little bit sad, though.
Hmm?
I mean, I like the idea of you being my daddy. Because then, Susie would have been my big sister.
Oh! Oh! I'm sorry, Iris.
I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing. Were you? But if somebody like me would be worthy, I would be delighted to become your sister. Oh! What? Really? Oh, yes, without question. So you'll teach me all the ways you know to throw Runo to the floor?
No! Don't throw Runo anymore!
Yes, of course. It would be my pleasure.
You didn't have to agree quite so readily.
Oh, but wait a minute. If Susie's gonna be my big sister, you could be my big brother if you want, Runo.
Huh? I mean, yes, of course. If you'll have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Well done, Iris. We must always be mindful of feelings. I've raised you so well. Because being sensitive is your strong suit, naturally.
Right, I'm going to work extra hard for tomorrow now, because it's for my big brother and sister.
What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing what?
Hee. We'll just have to wait and see.
Oh. Good luck in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance. I'll do my very best, of course. Pheasants for everyone! So the overnight break in the trial's proceedings became a crucial turning point, exposing new truths while posing new conundrums. That list of 4 names on the telegram in Judge Igoku's office, and the extraordinary assassination plot in which my best friend had somehow become involved. I felt as though I had been plunged into an even greater darkness all of a sudden. But at the same time, I felt sure I would see the light again soon.
Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world standing steadfastly behind me.
Feelings. Good found family. What a good found family. There it is. There's a to be continued. I knew it. I was like, there's gotta be another to be continued.